My name is Jon, and I'm the lead developer for AMP Stories.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hong. I'm the lead interaction designer working on AMP Story format and also AMP Story on Google services. We're super excited to be here today to walk you through what's new for AMP Stories in 2019. So let's start with something we use every day. We do a diverse range of activities with our mobile phones on a daily basis, like chatting with your friend, ordering food, navigating to new places, watching TV, movie shows, playing games. Beyond all those basic activities, we also found ourselves spending more time discovering or consuming content directly from the mobile devices. A lot of the traditional content channels, like newspapers or magazines, have been converted from the print media to the digital media. But we see that most of the digital content are designed for desktop access, instead of following a good usability guidance on mobile. So therefore, we often face challenges when we read content on mobile screens. Your desktop size decreases from this big to this, but the amount of the content you need to consume stay the same, right? I know. It's really painful because you get less time to read the content, and you have to keep moving your page to other part of the content instead of simply just glancing everything at one place. It's also hard to track the reading and manage the reading time. For myself, I often find myself opening a bunch of articles on mobile screen every day, but I don't find myself finishing reading them that often. Because of the suffering to read traditional long-form articles on mobile screens, we're hoping for more visual forms of storytelling and a better content consuming experience that's designed for mobile first. We see that the visually rich content format are getting more and more popular in the native world. But visually rich content on web is still rare because it's difficult and expensive to create. So to create a better open form for visual storytelling on the mobile web, we launched the developer preview for AMP Stories last year in February. With AMP Stories, we deliver mobile-first, bite-sized content to users and then immerse them with fast-loading full-screen experience. We also start allowing publishers to do easy visual-driven narratives with engaging motions and tappable interactions. What's even more awesome, the AMP Story format is free, and it's part of the open web. So it's open for anyone who wants to try on their own site. And it's also easy to be shared or embedded across the whole web instead of being locked into a closed ecosystem or platform. In the past 1 year, we're excited to see publishers creating a lot of great AMP stories on a diverse of topics, each with their own unique design on storytelling. We see great stories made for news, lifestyle content, politics, science, TV shows, visual essays, celebrity stories, game reviews, sports, and many other cool topics. We're also working hard to make the AMP story format even better. So now, I'm going to hand off to Jon to walk you through the exciting AMP story format updates.
Thanks, Hong. During AMP Story's origin trial, we saw that there was real interest in this type of content. Publishers of all sorts joined us for our origin trial, and they were able to build real stories with the format, some of which you just saw. But the origin trial was limited in scope and only focused on a small number of use cases. So we on the core AMP Stories team have been hard at work expanding the capabilities of the format so that it can work for everyone. So let's walk through a few of the features that we've added to help out here. First is localization. When we launched the origin trial and developer preview last February, it was in English only. We now support 21 different locales, but more importantly, we've built a generalizable framework around localization in AMP so that AMP Stories system-provided user interfaces can be translated into any language easily. The framework not only includes the ability to add these new translations, but also includes the ability to flip the user interface for right-to-left languages like Arabic. To use new languages, you can simply set the lang attribute on the HTML tag of the document with your story to the locale code for the language that your locale you would like to use. And if you want to enable right-to-left support, then you can set the dir, which stands for direction, attribute of the HTML tag to RTL. As an example, Rakuten is a major internet company based right here in Tokyo, actually. They run one of the largest recipe sites in Japan, Rakuten Recipe, which has over 1.5 million recipes for you to enjoy for free. Rakuten Recipe is experimenting with publishing AMP stories, and you see one here, which is, I believe, the top 10 most popular sweets, which they all look pretty good, I think. But as we get to the end of the story, we see what we call the templated bookend UI, which provides links, related articles, sharing options, and so forth. And this templated UI is partially specified by the publisher, but also partially contains strings that are defined by AMP Story itself. The strings provided by AMP Story itself can be translated into Japanese with this new localization feature, providing a consistent user experience for the users. Next, we wanted to provide a richer, more customizable experience for desktop displays. When we launched AMP Stories to its developer preview last year, we included a default desktop user interface. And I want to emphasize that this user interface is good, but the reason that we implemented this user interface is because it is actually easier for publishers, right? As a publisher, you can simply create your story for mobile and have this automatically transformed to work on landscape displays as well. But what we've heard from some publishers is that they're willing to put in a little bit more work to make their experiences better on landscape displays. And so earlier this year, we launched a feature that allows publishers to bring the full bleed nature of stories on desktop or on mobile to desktop as well. On a laptop or a desktop computer or even a giant projection screen, this feels a lot more natural, and it also brings this sort of this feeling of immersion that you have on stories on mobile to desktop. Although it requires a little bit more work from the publisher to get this experience just right, particularly in finding the right art direction, the flexibility it affords publishers and the benefits to the user experience are tremendous. This experience was designed and developed in collaboration with the top global news publisher, The Washington Post, whose story you see here. They worked closely with us to run an experiment on their properties where they essentially set up a few test stories to determine the effectiveness of this new experience. Once we were able to determine the effectiveness and the value that this truly brought to users, we were able to implement and productionize this feature to ship it as a core part of the AMP Stories format. The Washington Post has continued to publish a number of great stories using this experience, but the benefit of implementing this into AMP Story itself is that now all publishers can benefit from this experience as well. And we've seen some publishers start to do that since launching this publicly. For example, the top national publisher, the San Francisco Chronicle, has started publishing in this new landscape experience as well. So now you're all probably wondering, how do you enable this experience for your stories as well? The short answer is just add this one attribute. If you add the supports landscape attribute to your story, then it will automatically enable the landscape support for your story. But the slightly longer answer is that when you do that, things might not look quite right. The top screen here, you can see that the assets are not cropped perfectly. And so this is because for both portrait and landscape orientations, we actually do a center crop, where we just take the centermost portion of the asset and keep that in display. So to correct this, we actually recommend manually specifying a crop. And you can do that by specifying the object position attribute on your images and videos. So here, the object position attribute works by essentially setting a focal point on the images and videos that should stay as close to the center of the screen as possible. Here we set the focal point to 75% along the x-axis and 40% on the y-axis, which is roughly the most important part of this photo. The browser will then shift the media over so that this focal point, again, is as close to the center of the screen as possible, giving you a much better crop. You may notice that the landscape version of this remains unchanged, and that is because, well, the landscape version of the asset and the landscape orientation of the screen are roughly the same size, and so the asset does not need to be moved over. And actually, the focal point here cannot be moved any closer to the center of the screen while leaving the image still covering the whole story. Support for the object position attribute will be rolling out over the next few weeks. Another piece of feedback that we've heard from publishers is that they want to have more control over navigation to other places from the story. So on a traditional site, right, you would have a navigational menu, and they would like to bring that to stories as well. And so we've done just that by enabling support for AMP Sidebar, which works much like it does on a regular AMP website. This lets you provide navigational affordances and treat your story more like a part of your site. To use AMP Sidebar is relatively straightforward. You just use the AMP Sidebar tag as a direct child of the AMP Story tag in your story. And it works just like embedding a sidebar in a regular AMP document, with one exception, which is that stories will automatically add the templated UI to open the sidebar, this hamburger menu icon that you see in the top right corner here. Another thing that we've heard from publishers is that sometimes you want to make the editorial decision to allow users to explore content only if they want to, right? So like maybe you have a video that's very long and you're not convinced that all of your users would like to watch the whole video. Or maybe you want to optionally allow users to get a deeper dive on a particular topic that you've covered in your story. This is where attachments come into play. To open an attachment, a user can simply swipe up from the bottom of a page containing an attachment, and they will get this sort of scrollable pane. As a publisher, you control the content of the attachment and can embed any content that you like. Attachments are often used in story formats to provide exactly this, an additional set of content that isn't critical to the story, but we've added this now into AMP stories for you to use as well. Just like Sidebar, the AMP story page attachment tag acts as a container for the additional content, and it also automatically adds the UI affordance to the story. So for the sidebar, it was the hamburger menu icon in the top right. For the page attachments, it's this arrow with the learn more text on the bottom. For AMP story page attachment, you can embed it into your story by setting the AMP story page attachment tag as a direct child of your AMP story page. But not all interactive content should be hidden away in an attachment. Sometimes you want to showcase the content directly as part of your story. This is why we're adding embeds to stories, the ability to embed content directly within the story page. When a user clicks on an interactive embed, they'll be shown a tooltip that allows them to bring the component into full focus. This allows the user to interact with the content fully without breaking the navigational flow through the story. Each of the embeds that we support is an AMP component, so embedding them in your story is as simple as using an AMP component. So in this example, we're embedding a tweet, and so like on any other AMP page, all we do is use the AMP Twitter tag. Support for AMP Twitter is live today, but much like the localization feature that I mentioned earlier, the exciting thing here isn't specifically the use of AMP Twitter. It's the fact that we've built a generalizable framework around embedding content. We can expand this framework to support many different content types, and we plan to do just that as we roll these components out individually over the next few months. We're pretty excited about these new features and hope that you'll feel the same way. Now, I'll hand it back to Hong to talk more to you about what Google is doing to surface AMP stories.
Thanks, Jon. I can't wait to see upcoming AMP stories with all those cool features. So now I'm going to put on my Google hat and then talk about AMP stories on Google surfaces. So after you're building all these amazing AMP stories, the main question you might ask is, how can users see them? Well, the great thing about AMP in general is that those are just regular web pages and are accessible through publisher site, through social channels, or of course, they're available through search engines like Google. So AMP stories today can show up on Google search in the web results and top stories. In order to make a search experience more visual and more interactive, we're working on a dedicated placement for AMP stories on search for queries in specific categories. So let's use travel as an example and all get on a visual search journey together. Let's imagine ourselves searching for things to do in Tokyo. Here we have the search result page. You start scrolling and exploring the content, and then you find this beautiful blog serving you cool travel visual stories. Tapping on any of this cover will bring you right into the story, and now you can start enjoying reading the story by simply just tap through the pages. If you want to browse something else, you can just simply swipe to the next. Now, you can get this endless discovery experience by continuously swiping to the next content. And of course, this is just a teaser. There's so many cool places to go around the world. And by adding this new experience to the Google search, users will start getting more and more immersive travel stories. We start with the travel because looking at the rich content experience like this can really help users get a better understanding of the travel destinations. And then you can engage more before you even physically being there. Also, the AMP travel stories tend to be evergreen, so they will be still relevant monthly after being published. We also know that the story format works really well with all other types of content categories. So after travel, we'll experiment with gaming, fashion, recipe, movies, TV shows, and even more categories. So beyond the regular search experience, Google also offers you a browse-forward experience in the Google Discover feed for all times users without having a query in mind. So a quick reminder on what's Google Discover. Discover is a feature within Google Search that helps users stay up to date on all their favorite topics without needing a query. Users can get to their Discover experience through the Google Search app, go to the google.com mobile homepage, or simply swipe right from the home screen on the Pixel phones. It has grown significantly and now helps more than 800 million monthly active users get inspired and explore cool content. The exciting news is that in the past 6 months, we have been featuring great AMP stories in the Google Discover feed as well. We served many high-quality AMP stories based on a diverse range of topics, and we saw great user engagement. We believe that story fits really well with the user mindset in Discover feed, and plan on focusing even more on this platform moving forward. So beyond bringing more stories to users through Google services, we also want to make it easier for you to produce high-quality stories. So we updated our story best practice on amp.dev to help you easily understand what makes a good story. We have talked to a number of great story creation tools that allow you to have easier process to create stories. We now also offer you good monetization options to let you easier monetize your content. So let's start with best practice. What makes a good story? We all know that story is a new and a unique content format. So if you're looking for ideas or inspirations, trying to figure out how to start making delightful stories, you can reference or follow the best story practice on the amp.dev to ensure your story quality. So let's take a look at some detailed examples. When you make a story, always make sure that your story is complete and self-contained. You should keep your readers engaged within the story. Don't require them to click links to go to other websites to get essential information. Always use tags in a clear and concise way. Try to keep your audience engaged by avoiding putting large blocks of text on the page. Story is a visually driven format. Try to use rich media to tell your story and add text info to enhance it. Make sure your text is always legible. Always using high contrast to make the words easy to see on every single page. You should always take advantage of the full bleed screen. Always use full bleed assets as much as possible. Try to create a compelling and more immersive content reading experience by using the vertical assets. Another good thing about using vertical-based assets is that it crops out the unimportant information on your page. So it will let your user easily focus on one key subject. We all know that motion plays an important role in the storytelling. So be creative with your animation usage. You can always bring your static image to life with proper animations. Keep in mind that animation should always enhance the visual, but not distract the visual. On the example on the left, animating different elements separately to the stage will make the whole visual experience more engaging and playful. On the example on the right, the animation effects on the background image is nice and subtle, and plays a nice balance with the text overlay together. Hope you find all those examples helpful. If you want to learn more, please go to amp.dev and check the 4 AMP story best practice.
To make creating stories easier without having to dive into the HTML, we've worked with a number of partners to release creation tools for AMP stories. Make Stories is a WYSIWYG editor that allows you to create a story by dragging and dropping. It comes with a library of templates, GIFs, icons, and illustrations that you can add your own videos and images as well. And the best part is that, as we heard in the keynote earlier, Make Stories is launching for free, and so check out makestories.io for more details. Next is Unfold, a story creation tool that launched at the beginning of last year and already has 17 million downloads. They offer easy story creation directly from your Android or iOS device with a number of beautiful templates and themes. And they're announcing that their app will support AMP Stories as part of a premium version of Unfold coming this June. Newsroom Studio is a powerful story creation platform specifically engineered for publishers looking to embed tappable formats into their editorial and commercial workflows. The platform includes a turnkey monetization solution, recommendations engine, and provides unrestricted access to the entire Getty Images library. We're also starting to see platforms publish stories to the web. Jumprope is a platform to discover and share how to do anything in stories. TickDone is a platform aimed at teaching 1 million people 1 billion new skills, and both are publishing to the web in the AMP Stories format today. We're excited to see more platforms provide ways for end users to publish content to the web in the story format. And lastly, we on the AMP team have been working to get stories support added in CMSs, starting with building support for stories into the WordPress AMP plugin. I'm sure many or most of you know about WordPress, but if you don't, WordPress holds 60% of the CMS market share and powers a third of all websites. We've been working jointly with the agency XWP to add a WYSIWYG stories editor to the WordPress AMP plugin to help bring more AMP stories to the open web. To hear more about our efforts to bring stories to WordPress, among other WordPress things, check out the AMP Experiences in WordPress, the WordPress Way talk tomorrow afternoon. As Hong mentioned, we've been trying to make it easier for publishers to monetize their stories by providing a wide array of monetization options. From the new story ads format to affiliate linking to sponsored stories, there are a number of ways to get started with monetizing stories. And for more information on that, Vamsi will give a talk first thing tomorrow morning, the Advertising and AMP talk. So this has been a whirlwind tour of what we've been up to for the past year. It's not everything, but it's a few highlights. But where are we going from here? Well, to name a few, we're going to continue to roll out support for additional embeds, as I mentioned earlier. We want to make creating animations easier so that, well, by doing two things. We want to make animations easier by expanding the existing preset library of animations, as well as adding support for functionality that will make creating more robust animations within stories. We also want to support reactions, which are quick actions to provide social feedback on a story to let the story's author, as well as other users, know how users feel about a story. And lastly, we've been experimenting with a feature that we call branching, which allows you as a publisher to control the user's flow through the story. With the ability to jump from page to page, share a story starting from a specific page of interest, create a table of contents, or even create short quizzes, this feature really amps up the interactivity options in stories. So if you're interested in getting started, you can check out the stories landing page on amp.dev. This has documentation for stories as well as story ads. Another great resource to check out is the full stories best practices guide on amp.dev at go.amp.dev/storiesbestpractices. And lastly, if you're here at AMP Conf with us today or tomorrow, you can come and check us out in the demos booth or the tutorials room. Thank you.